You are now listening to AB on the Unpopular Opinion Podcast.
Yeah. Let's go. This is Unpopular Opinion. This is your boy AB. I'm so hyped, y'all. As y'all can tell, I'm hyped for every episode. But y'all, family, I just read this dope article from, I think his name is Arash Markazi. He is, I guess, a columnist for the LA Times now. He used to work with ESPN. He did a lot of things with LeBron James, I think, in Miami. He was a senior writer at ESPN for years. But man, Arash wrote a wonderful article in the LA Times. If you have not read this article, please, and you're a sports addict like me, a sports fan like me, you have to read this article. It has so many gems in it. Basically, it covered the backstory behind how the Clippers got Kawhi Leonard and how they got Paul George. When that happened on that day, I can't remember the exact day it was, but it took the basketball world by storm. Like, that was one of the biggest trades that we have ever seen in NBA history. And I say that because it's a number of reasons why, but one of the main reasons why is because we had never in NBA history we had never had a Finals MVP leave the team that he won Finals MVP with the next season after he won Finals MVP. So Kawhi Leonard is a man he's a man that does what he wants to do. It's Kawhi Leonard's world, and we're just living in it. And right now, he's the man right now. You know, whatever he says goes, whatever he wants, that's what's gonna happen. So, a couple of things that happened in his behind the scenes story that I thought were really impressive, and I pointed out. Congratulations to my brother Seth Curry. And his lovely wife, Callie, which is Doc Rivers' daughter. Man, I would say I want to be adopted into the family, but I'm already Steph. I'm already a Curry. My last name just got changed like later in life on my birth certificate to Brown. But really, I found out that I'm really a Curry. So I talked to Steph the other day, and I was like, yo, Steph, like, what you think about the Kawhi Leonard thing? And he was like, yo, it's crazy, like, but we still feel like we got a really good chance. And I was like, darn right y'all do, like, you Steph Curry. And I kind of got at him a little bit because I was kind of mad that he didn't perform as well as he should have or wanted to in the finals. But my brother, he gonna bounce back, man. He got a good chance at winning another MVP this year. But anyway, congratulations to my brother Seth and Doc's daughter, which is my sister now, Callie, or Kaylee. I don't even know how to pronounce her name, so maybe I'm not a good brother right now. But anyway, they got married, and they were talking about Doc Rivers being in LA, paying for the wedding, which I thought was really funny. Doc Rivers had joked about it, and quote, he said, it was very expensive. I have to be the first coach ever to throw a wedding for an NBA player. Like, I don't get that. I don't think I should have paid. I really don't. But it was fantastic. I thought that was hilarious, man, because Doc probably is right. He probably is the first coach to ever pay for a NBA player's wedding, which I'm pretty sure was hella expensive. Like, you talking about just, such an amazing, probably beautiful wedding. I don't know. I'm sure they got some video somewhere. But Seth, the Curry family didn't have to pay a dime. So, as y'all know, the father of the daughter pays for the wedding. So, I don't know if that's changing now. Is that changing? Like, are things changing in that way? Or are things shifting? I don't know. Y'all let me know in the comments. But I've only been to like maybe 2 weddings, so who knows? It was just a great article, man. They go deeper into the article later. They give little details here and there, but Rivers of course, is celebrating the fact that they got Leonard and George. And this is another quote that I thought was interesting. Doc Rivers said, "I got a lot of credit, and so did Jerry West. But the guy that was the hero in all this was Lawrence Frank," Rivers said. "He did all the work. He had Steve Ballmer going to Raptors games and went to some too. We were warned that no more Clipper players, coaches, or employees could go to the games in Toronto. We were sending guys to sit in the stands." I thought that was crazy because it's like, yo, like they really had spies. Not spies, I mean, they didn't do anything wrong. And Doc said that. He said there was nothing wrong with what we were doing, but Steve Ballmer sitting courtside in Toronto seemed a little strange. But we didn't say a word. We just wanted Leonard to know we were there and we were interested. So even going back to last season, and I don't know exactly what games they were doing this, but I mean, I think that's genius. You know, if there's no rule, if there's nothing that says that you can't go and enjoy or scout another star player, knowing that he's about to be a free agent the next season and knowing that you have a pretty good chance of getting him, I think that every GM and owner should be following that code. And to have the owner there, I thought was amazing, man. I think they planted those little seeds like throughout the season, and now we're seeing them sprouting and they're going. So let me go continue, man, because there was a lot interesting in this, and I'm gonna get to my takes in it. But there were so many interesting points. I just thought that you guys needed to hear it, and you know, we just want to keep going. Let's see. The Clippers had been optimistic about their chances to land Leonard, but when the Raptors won the championship and the Lakers traded for Anthony Davis, pairing him with LeBron James, and then opened up a third max salary slot, there was a feeling the Moreno Valley native could sign elsewhere. So the Clippers knew that there was a bad chance of this happening when the Lakers were making moves, and we ended up getting rid of Lonzo and getting rid of Brandon Ingram, getting rid of Josh Hart, Kevin Hart. I'm thinking about the beat in the background, but getting rid of Josh Hart, you know, it's just crazy, like that they did these little meticulous moves to make sure that didn't happen. Reading on, he said, "We had a meeting with Kawhi at my house in Malibu, and we felt we had the inside position," Rivers said. "The Lakers had a meeting with Kawhi, and they built this whole thing up for him to come to their new practice facility. And he said, 'No, you can come to my hotel room.' So the Lakers tried to have a meeting with Kawhi at their new practice facility, and he's just like, 'Nah, come to my hotel room. So you got to come to me.' But with us," he said, "Yes, I'll come to your house." When we heard that, it felt like he was telling us he wants to come here, and I would agree. And we know that, and they talk about this too, Rivers loved Kawhi Leonard. He went on ESPN and talked about how Kawhi was the most like Michael Jordan that he's seen. And Rivers said, "We didn't know much about him at that time. Their first meeting was at Rivers' home. That was their first conversation." So, you know, I don't think that was like an undercover thing. Of course, he's saying it because he's smart enough to say it, knowing that Kawhi Leonard would hear it, and that they were already sending little spies at the games. And to hear Doc Rivers say that about Kawhi Leonard, I know that meant a lot to him. And this is another funny part. This is just vintage Kawhi, man. This is vintage Kawhi. He said, "I actually tried to speak to him last season a couple times as he was walking by, and you get nothing out of him. Nothing," Rivers said. "He comes into this meeting and he shakes our hands and he's talking. We were prepared for a meeting where we would have to drag things out of him. Instead, he's the one talking and finally tells us exactly what the deal is." Now, this is something that was covered on ESPN a few hours ago, and this quote right here. He said, "I want to play for you," and he pointed to me, Doc Rivers. He said, "Mr. Ballmer, I love the things you do and what you stand for, but your team is not good enough, and if you don't change your team, I'm not coming." Like, straight like that. Like, Kawhi just like straight like that, bro. Like, if your team, I see it's not good enough, so having me on the team is not gonna do it. Like, I need a running mate. Like, I need somebody else. So basically, what the Clippers did is they had a list of guys. They gave a list of guys to Kawhi Leonard. He said, we actually had a list of guys, which was a mistake, but we got lucky, Rivers said. We shouldn't have even had a list, because then he got to choose who he wanted to play with the assumption that we could get them. We didn't know if we could get anybody. We just showed him guys that we thought would match him, and when he saw Paul George's name, he said, I want to play with him. So I thought that was huge too, just for Kawhi to really restructure the whole team around him. Like, we are talking about LeBron-esque power that Kawhi Leonard has right now. I think probably with Kevin Durant, maybe in OKC, maybe KD had that type of power, but we don't know. We never heard KD talk about that. We never heard Sam Presti talk about that. So we talking about, I'm sure maybe Steve Kerr and I think Bob Myers with Golden State, he probably asked Steph, like, do you think this guy's a good fit? But for the most part, there's only a few GMs and owners who are talking to their superstar player and saying, and this guy isn't even on the team yet. Like, at this moment, Kawhi isn't even on the team. But Lawrence Frank, Doc Rivers, Steve Ballmer is doing whatever it takes to get Kawhi Leonard on their team. So, Doc Rivers continues. He said, we showed him everybody else, and he didn't want to hear it. He just stayed on Paul George. So after the meeting, we sat down and I said, we got to get Paul George. I don't know how we're going to do it, but we have to do it. We did know that Oklahoma City wanted to break their team up, so that helped. But we didn't know if we could get him. I thought that was also interesting, because it's like, how does Doc Rivers know that they wanted to break OKC up? I don't know. There's some undercover stuff in the NBA that I don't know about yet. I only hope to dream to know that information first before the rest of the world. But I thought that was a pretty key note, because, you only go for a guy like Paul George after they got bounced out of the first round 2 years in a row with Paul George, 3 years in a row with Russell Westbrook leading the team. And so you probably got a pretty good idea to know that, like, hey, whatever they're doing is not working, because they have 2 of the top 10 players in the league, and they couldn't get past the first round 2 years in a row. 1 year by a rookie leading the team, and Donovan Mitchell in Utah, which was Paul George's first year. And then to lose in the magnitude that they did off of a Damian Lillard 3 to close out that series was devastating, heartbreaking. That's a moment that we're going to remember in NBA history for a long, long time, probably forever. So even though it was a playoff game, but we know legacies are made in the playoffs. So it was just, I thought that was key. And then, so we should all know at this point what the Clippers had to do, or what they were offering to get Paul George from OKC. Which was an unprotected first round pick in 2022, 2024, and 2026. They got Miami's first round picks in 2021 and 2023. And they also agreed to swap picks in 2023 and 2025, and threw in 2 former first round pick players, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Danilo Gallinari, which Danilo Gallinari can still hoop, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, his name is hard to say for some reason for me, is a really good young player. I mean, the kid is only 21 years old, and I mean, he was playing big minutes for the Clippers in the playoffs. And at that point, teams are really game planning for you. You really got to be ready for the moment. So for him to perform as well as he did in the playoffs, I thought spoke highly of him, and he got a bright future. So Steve Ballmer, when they had the meeting, Steve Ballmer was nervous about the picks, Doc Rivers said. I said to Steve, you keep saying 6 picks for Paul George is insane, but what you're saying it wrong. It's not 6 for Paul, it's 6 for Paul and Kawhi. So 3 for each. I would do that. You have to look at it in those terms. So I thought that was also really interesting. Just Doc Rivers he gave us an inside look of how that meeting went with him and Steve Ballmer, I'm sure Lawrence Frank, and how, he had to convince his owner that, hey, like, you're looking at this the wrong way. It's not a series of picks for one player. one star player, a superstar player. We're talking about a series of picks for maybe the best player in the league and also a top 10 player in the league. Both super um, focused players, both players that are really driven. I think Paul George really feels like he has a chance to get that ring now, and he's back to his original form, or becoming better and better player after that major injury that he had when he was with the USA team. So I'm really happy for Paul George. I mean, like, I was really kind of upset that he didn't come to the Lakers, but his game is so smooth, man. Like, Paul George has one of the smoothest games in the NBA, and he's also a rider die. Like, he is a rider, especially on the defensive end. Like, he will get all up in you. He will like, he uses his hands well. He gets steals. He defends, man. He defends in a time in the NBA where defense is, shall I say, not as important. It gets important in the playoffs, but guys really don't take the defensive end. You got to really show maximum effort on that defensive end. So, scoring is supreme in the NBA right now. But I mean, this team, man, defensively could hold teams if they really locked in. I think they could hold teams to like 95 a game, or maybe like definitely less than 100. So I would say they could really lock in and be the number one defensive team in the league. And for the regular season, I think they could lock teams up for between 95 and 100 points a game. Where, in today's game, we got teams averaging close to 120 a game. So I think, that would be highly impressive for the Clippers. And I think with a defensive-minded coach like Doc Rivers, that's going to be the goal. I think the number one thing that Doc Rivers is going to circle on that board when training camp starts, and maybe he's already done it or texted to a lot of his players, but I think his expectation is going to be for them to hold teams under 100 points a game, and maybe under 95, knowing Doc Rivers. I mean, he has that mentality to be great. We're talking about a championship coach who, coached the Boston Celtics to their